Thousands of people in the North Country turned out to protest President Donald Trump's administration Saturday. They were among an estimated 5 million who took part in so-called No Kings rallies across the country. They coincided with a military parade Trump scheduled in Washington, D.C. for the Army's 250th anniversary. It was also Flag Day and the president's 79th birthday. Protesters lined the streets in multiple North Country communities, including Plattsburgh, Watertown, and Saranac Lake. We have a dispatch from the event in Canton on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from the Wild Center in Tupper Lake, dedicated to strengthening visitors' connections to the natural world. More at wildcenter.org.
Hi, I'm Kara Chapman, and for David Summerstein, it's Monday, June 16th. Up first, a Plattsburgh man was sentenced last week to 50 years to life in prison for killing 2 women last year. The Plattsburgh Press-Republican reports Joe Hewitt was arrested last December for the murders of 42-year-old Miranda Wade and her mother, 64-year-old Karen Lindsay. Their bodies were found in trash bags outside their home. In March, Hewitt pleaded guilty to murder, arson, and concealment of a human corpse. Last Thursday, he was sentenced to 2 consecutive 25 years to life sentences for the murder convictions. Hewitt will serve additional concurrent sentences for the other charges. A hockey player from Akwesasne has been traded to the New York Rangers. 20-year-old Kerry Terrence was born and raised in Akwesasne. He's played for the Erie Otters in the OHL Junior League for the past 4 seasons and led the team in goals. Terrence then moved to the NHL, signing with the California-based Anaheim Ducks. But the New York Rangers announced that they've acquired Terrence from the Ducks. That means he'll soon be playing a little closer to home in Akwesasne. On Friday morning, federal immigration officials detained a dozen people after stopping a vehicle in Watertown. Amy Feiereisel reports.
On Friday morning around 8 a.m., U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents stopped a car in Watertown. According to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, several people fled the vehicle. County deputies helped Border Patrol find and detain them at the Adirondack Efficiencies Hotel on Arsenal Street. The Sheriff's Office says the CBP detained 12 people total, who were then transported to the Border Patrol station on Wellesley Island. A very similar story unfolded on the morning of June 6th, the previous Friday, when 6 Guatemalan nationals were arrested in Watertown, also after a traffic stop. The CBP says that was part of an investigation, and that all 6 people detained were in the United States illegally. Since entering office, President Donald Trump has pushed Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, to significantly increase the number of migrants it is detaining and deporting. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol recently told Syracuse.com that it's on a mission to, quote, prosecute and deport every person who crosses the border illegally, not just those who pose a threat, end quote. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.
President Donald Trump's budget and policy bill is currently before the Senate after Republicans passed it in the House of Representatives. It could face significant changes in the Senate, but as it stands, it contains broad cuts to Medicaid. Medicaid is how Planned Parenthood gets funding for its public health services. As NCPR News intern Nora Kenyon reports, they're a lifeline for thousands of low-income households in the North Country.
Planned Parenthood is perhaps best known for its abortion services, but it also provides services such as STI testing, vaccinations, and cancer screenings. Jamie Benner Clemens from Watertown was in her early 20s when she switched jobs. She was in between health insurance plans.
That weekend, in between the 2 jobs, I found a lump in my right breast.
It was a 4-week wait at her regular gynecologist, but Planned Parenthood got her in the next day and referred her to a clinic in Rochester.
I was stage 3B. It was spreading into my lymphatic system.
Planned Parenthood then helped her apply for Medicaid. Benner Clemens says she doesn't know what would have happened if she had waited the 4 weeks.
In the North Country, we live in the country. There are not a lot of doctor's offices. The facilities are packed full of patients. You can't get into anywhere fast.
But the services that helped Benner Clemens are under threat in President Trump's budget. The bill contains a provision to defund Planned Parenthood. It says any healthcare providers that receive more than $1 million from Medicaid and also provide abortion services will no longer get Medicaid funding. CEO Crystal Collette says Planned Parenthood of the North Country got $1.8 million from Medicaid last year. She says the Republicans' bill endangers healthcare that North Country families rely on.
About a third of our Medicaid patients tell us that they don't have another healthcare provider.
Collette says that preventative care saves money, so if the bill passes, it will eventually cost the government more. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the provision in the bill that will affect Planned Parenthood would increase the federal deficit by $300 million.
So this bill is not about saving money. It is about deliberately dismantling access to care for those who are the most marginalized. Our motto is care no matter what. And no matter how our elected officials let us down and vote against the best interest of folks on Medicaid in the North Country, Planned Parenthood's going to stay available and open.
Colette says she is working with the board of directors and statewide partners to create a plan if the bill gets passed as is. For North Country Public Radio, I'm Nora Kenyon in Canton.
An estimated 5 million people across the country took to the streets this weekend to protest the Trump administration. The protests were called No Kings rallies and coincided with a military parade Trump scheduled in Washington, D.C. for the Army's 250th anniversary, which was also his birthday. In the North Country, thousands of people rallied along streets in several communities, including Messina, Plattsburgh, Long Lake, and Saranac Lake. In Glens Falls, a counter-protester allegedly assaulted a man, according to former Post-Star editor Ken Tingley. The Warren County Sheriff's Office says a New Hampshire woman assaulted a Trump supporter at the protest in Warrensburg. Hundreds of people gathered in Canton. Catherine Wheeler was there and has this story.
On Saturday morning, people protesting Donald Trump's administration filled the sidewalks of downtown Canton.
It stretches all the way from the railroad tracks down to the gas station. It's pretty impressive for a small town.
Shelley Tramposh was among the hundreds who congregated at Canton's main intersection. Protesters waved signs that read, "No Kings" and "Resist."
Well, I think it says that there's at least a number of people who are upset about what's going on. I'm also pleased about how many people in cars are honking and smiling and waving. It's a nice thing to see.
Protesters said they're standing up against Trump's actions, ranging from his crackdown on immigration to the cuts he's made to schools, scientific research, and the arts. Susan Mitchell is from Canton. She says she's worried about Trump's proposed federal budget that's making its way through Congress. It would cut trillions in taxes and scale back safety net programs.
16 million people will lose health care. Cuts in SNAP benefits will affect 3.2 million people.
Mitchell's citing estimates from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office about potential impacts from Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill. She says she's worried about how the cuts would affect the North Country.
We can't do that to our future and our children. It'll bankrupt our country, in my opinion. So we're asking people to call their representatives and to resist, attend protests, everything in a peaceful, nonviolent way.
Trump's increased immigration enforcement was also on the minds of protesters. The North Country hasn't been spared from the ramp-up. Last week, federal immigration authorities raided 2 nail salons in neighboring Potsdam, along with homes in Colton and Hannibal Falls. Ann Townsend lives in Colton. She says she immigrated to the U.S. decades ago as a child, and she's been proud to be an American all these years.
I now get up in the mornings and feel as if this is a totally different country than the one I've had the privilege of living in. And now I cannot sit still and let this happen. Coming out here and voicing my opinion, yelling my opinion, showing with my support that this is not right.
Townsend says Saturday's scene was energizing.
I want to remain hopeful. I just don't know. But I'll keep at it until frankly, Donald Trump no longer is our president.
Protesters said they're hopeful that the gathering shows that their movement is growing here in the North Country. Catherine Wheeler, North Country Public Radio in Canton.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Lost in Beijing of Keene and Matt Bullwinkle of Potsdam. I'm Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.